The Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society podcast.
Welcome to the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society, a podcast dedicated to suspense, crime, and horror stories from the golden age of radio. I'm Eric.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Joshua.
We love mysterious old-time radio stories, but do they stand the test of time? That's what we're here to find out.
This week, we present another episode from our listener library, featuring suggestions from you, our mysterious listeners. Jeff writes, "Love your show. It's one of the few podcasts I never miss. I'd love to hear your opinion of the show that got me into audio drama, the premiere episode of the 1984 public radio series, Bradbury 13. The episode I'm referring to is easily one of the scariest things I've ever heard. It is called The Ravine."
Bradbury 13 was a series of radio adaptations by Ray Bradbury stories created by sound designer Michael McDonough in collaboration with Bradbury himself, who also introduced each episode. The series was produced and broadcast by National Public Radio as part of NPR Playhouse, the umbrella title for drama productions on NPR. Adding to its radio pedigree was the baritone voice of Paul Frees as the narrator. The series won the George Foster Peabody Award for Excellence in Broadcasting.
Ray Bradbury is often cited as one of the major writers responsible for bringing science fiction into the literary mainstream. Known mainly for his mastery of the short story, Bradbury was also an acclaimed novelist. Fahrenheit 451, his depiction of a book-burning dystopian future, still resonates with readers today. His collections of thematically linked short stories, including The Martian Chronicles and The Illustrated Man, simultaneously evoke the nostalgia of childhood and the anxieties of the future, whether that future be the banality of adulthood or the colonization of distant worlds.
The Ravine is based on the short story The Whole Town's Sleeping, first published in the September 1950 issue of McCall's magazine, and later incorporated into Bradbury's 1957 novel Dandelion Wine. It's one of Bradbury's rare thrillers, foreshadowing a contemporary obsession with stories that explore the dark underbelly of small-town life. The Whole Town's Sleeping was adapted for radio 29 years earlier by Suspense, using the original title and a very similar script.
And now, let's listen to The Ravine from Bradbury 13, originally broadcast on National Public Radio, April 16th, 1984.
It's late at night, and a chill has set in. You're alone, and the only light you see is coming from an antique radio. Listen to the sounds coming from the speaker. Listen to the music, and listen to the voices.
This is Ray Bradbury. Join me for the next 30 minutes on a tour through time and space. Come along to the far future. Follow me into a strange past with stories that almost could be or might have been. Real or unreal, this is Bradbury 13.
The ravine was a dynamo that never stopped running, night or day. There was a great moving hum, a bubbling and murmuring of creature. It smelled like a greenhouse of secret vapors and ancient washed shales and quicksands. And in the shade of warm trees, with her hands at either side of her like the oars of a delicate craft, lay Elizabeth Ransell. Her face moonlit, her eyes wide and like flint, her tongue sticking from her mouth. Ray Bradbury's The Ravine.
Douglas, would you like some more lemonade?
Oh, thanks, Miss Lavinia. But I'll take another cookie.
Oh, 7 o'clock. You better run along now, Douglas. Your mother will be worrying.
You going to the show with Miss Francine and Miss Helen?
Yes, I am, Mr. Nosy. Now you get on home. Shoo.
Bye. See you later.
What a scamp. Oh, Francine.
Lavinia, are you all ready?
Yes. Let me lock the door. There.
My, you look nice tonight.
Oh, I feel good, too. It's a fine night for a movie.
Isn't it, though?
Where are you going, girl?
To the Elite Theater to see Charlie Chaplin.
Won't catch me out on no night like this. Not with the lonely one strangling women left and right. I'm locking myself up in my closet with a gun.
Oh, bosh. Go on, then.
I'm going.
That woman.
Lavinia, you don't believe all that about the lonely one, do you?
Oh, those women like to see their tongues dance, that's all.
Just the same, Hattie McDullis was killed 2 months ago, Roberta Ferry the month before, and now Elizabeth Ramsell's disappeared.
Hattie McDullis was a silly girl walked off with a traveling man, I bet.
But the others, all of them strangled. Their tongues sticking out of their mouths, they say.
Honestly, Francine.
Lavinia, maybe we shouldn't go to the show tonight. The lonely one might follow and kill us.
Francine!
I don't like the ravine. Just, look at it, will you?
You're just being silly.
It won't be me coming back through this old ravine so darned late tonight. It'll be you, Lavinia. You down the steps and over the bridge and maybe the lonely one there.
Bosh!
It'll be you, alone on the path, listening to your shoes, not me. You, all alone, on the way back to your house, Lavinia. Don't you get lonely living in that house?
Old maids love to live alone. Let's take the shortcut.
What?
Yes, through the ravine.
Oh, I'm afraid.
It's early. The lonely one won't be out till late. Come on, I'll take your arm.
Oh, it's like a hothouse down here. Oh, insects.
Just mosquitoes.
Let's run.
No.
What's that?
Fireflies, Francine. Aren't they beautiful? Twinkling like little stars.
Well, I don't...
What is it?
There, under the tree.
Where?
There. Oh,
Don't scream, don't! Oh, it's Elizabeth. Elizabeth Ramsell.
She's dead. Oh, she's dead. Dead. She's dead.
We better get the police.
Before we terminate our investigation, I wonder, is there anything else you saw that you could tell us?
No, we told you everything. Come on, Francine.
You might drop by the station tomorrow for a little more questioning.
We'll be there.
Oh, hold on to me, Lavinia. I'm cold. I've never been so cold in my life.
It's like December.
You want an escort, ladies?
No, we'll make it.
Will we?
Of course we will.
Oh, I've never seen a dead person before. Oh.
It's only 8:30. We'll pick up Helen and get on to the show.
The show?
It's what we need. We've got to forget this. It's not good to remember. We'll go to the show as if nothing happened.
Oh, Lavinia, you don't mean it.
I never meant anything more in my life. We need to laugh and forget.
But Elizabeth's back there. Your friend, my friend.
We can't help her now. We can only help ourselves. Come on. There's Helen. Come on now, chin up.
Okay.
There you are. I thought you'd never get here. You're only an hour late, that's all.
Well, we went...
Helen, someone found Elizabeth Ramsell in the ravine.
Oh, dead? Was she dead?
Yes.
Oh. Who found her?
We don't know.
I've got a notion to go back in the house and lock the doors.
Helen, please come to the show with us. It'll be good for us all.
Oh, poor Elizabeth. I feel a chill in the air. I think I'll get a sweater.
We found her. Why didn't you tell her?
Why upset her? Tomorrow's plenty of time. Shh, here she comes.
All set. There. Locked tight. Oh, it's all so guests.
Let's hurry. We can still make the cereal.
We're crazy being out on a night like this.
Lonely one won't kill 3 ladies. There's safety in numbers. And besides, it's too soon. The killings always come a month apart.
Well, I suppose.
What's that?
Gotcha! Hey, I'm the lonely one.
Frank?
That's me.
Frank, if you ever do a childish thing like that again, may someone riddle you with bullets.
What a horrible thing to do.
You monster!
I didn't mean nothing.
Oh, go away. Haven't you heard about Elizabeth Ramsell found dead in the ravine?
Well, no,
And you running around scaring women. Jumping out from trees like that. Don't ever speak to us again.
Oh, now.
Get out of the way. Go.
I was just funny.
A lot of fun you are, Mr. Lonely One. Go take a look at Elizabeth Ramsell's face and see if it's funny. Good night.
Oh, what a horrible night.
Francine, it was only a joke. You know Frank. Why is she crying so hard?
I'll tell you when we get downtown. We're going to the show no matter what. Now, come on now. Get your money ready. We're almost there.
When we stop at the drugstore, I'd like to get some peppermint chews.
Good idea. I'll get some, too. Come on.
Evening, ladies. What can I do for you?
I need a nickel's worth of peppermint chews for eating in the show and some for Helen, too.
All right. A nickel's worth.
Yes, please.
You sure look pretty tonight, ladies. You look so nice and cool this afternoon when you was in for a chocolate soda.
Oh, why, thank you.
In fact, you look so cool that someone asked after you.
Oh?
A man sitting at the counter watched you walk out. He said to me, "Say, who's that?" "Why, that's Lavinia Nibbs, prettiest maiden lady in town," I said. "She's beautiful," he said. "Where does she live?"
Oh, you didn't give him her address, I hope?
I guess I didn't think.
Oh.
Told him over on Park Street near the Ravine, and well, tonight with them finding that body and all, I thought, what have I done?
Oh, how could you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course, maybe it was nothing.
Of course it was nothing, Mr. Spencer. Here's the nickel.
Oh, there's no charge for those peppermints.
Well, I know what I'm going to do right now.
Helen, where are you going? Helen, where are you going?
I'm going to call a taxi to take us all home. I'll not be part of a hunting party for you, Lavinia. That man was up to no good asking about you. Do you want to be dead in the ravine next?
It was just a man.
So is Frank Dillon a man. Maybe he's the lonely one.
I made the druggist give me a description. I made him tell me what he looked like. A stranger in a dark suit, sort of pale and thin.
We're all overwrought. If I'm the next victim, I'm the next victim.
Lavinia!
There's all too little excitement in life, especially for a maiden lady 33 years old. So don't you mind if I enjoy it.
Enjoy it?
Yes.
Oh.
Anyway, it's silly. I'm not beautiful.
Oh, but you are, Lavinia. You're the loveliest lady in town now that Elizabeth is... You keep men off at a distance. If you'd only relax, you'd have been married years ago.
Oh, stop it, will you? Now, here's the box office. I'm paying 41 cents to see Charlie Chaplin. If you two want to take a taxi, go on. I'll sit alone. I'll walk home alone.
Lavinia, you're crazy. We can't let you do that.
All right, then. 3 tickets, please. Here's your ticket, Helen. And yours, Francine. You can pay me later. Now, let's get inside.
I hope this is a good movie.
Of course it's a good movie. Charlie Chaplin's in it, isn't he?
Well, yes, but after all...
Here's 3 good seats on the aisle.
Oh, good. Let's go on.
Oh, look, there's Mr. Tubbs.
Ladies and gentlemen, the police have asked us to close early tonight so everyone can be out at a decent hour. Therefore, we're cutting our short subjects and running our feature immediately. The show will be over at 11. Everyone is advised to go straight home. Don't linger in the streets. Thank you.
That means us, Lavinia.
It means everyone.
It's starting.
Good.
Lavinia?
What?
As we came in, a man in a dark suit came across the street.
So?
He just walked down the aisle, and he's sitting in the row behind us.
Oh, Helen.
Right behind us?
Look for yourselves.
Oh, my gosh, he is there.
I'm going to get the manager.
Helen, no.
Stop the film! Turn on the lights!
Helen! Oh, Helen, you see how silly? All that commotion for nothing.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
When you ran up that aisle shouting, lights, I thought I'd die.
Well, how was I to know he was Mr. Tubbs' brother from Racine?
You could have asked him.
Well, I apologized. We shouldn't have stopped for those sodas. The police warned us that
Wash the police. I'm not afraid of anything. The lonely one is 1,000,000 miles away by now. He won't be back for months. And the police will get him then. Just wait. Wasn't the film wonderful?
I've seen it before. Ooh, I'm glad I brought my sweater. I do feel a chill in the air.
So do I.
Do you suppose if we scream, they do anything?
Who?
The store dummies. The people in those windows.
Oh, Francine. They're made of wax. Don't be silly. $11:30.
Ooh, it's getting windy. There goes my hair.
First, we'll walk you home, Francine.
No, I'll walk you home.
Don't be silly. You live way out at Electric Park. If you walked me home, you'd have to come back across the ravine alone by yourself. And if so much as a leaf fell on you, you'd drop dead.
I should stay the night at your house. You're the pretty one, remember?
Oh, bosh. Let's sing.
What do we sing?
Shine on, harvest moon, up in the sky.
Shh, listen.
It's just the wind blowing the porch swing back and forth.
Oh.
Shine on, harvest moon, up in the sky. I ain't had no lovin' since January, February, June, July. Here's your house, Francine. Good night.
Lavinia? Helen, stay here tonight. Oh, it's late. Almost midnight now. You can sleep in the parlor. I'll make hot chocolate. Oh, it'll be such fun.
No, thanks. We'll be fine.
Oh,
Francine, don't cry.
I don't want you dead. Oh, you're so fine and nice. I want you to live. Oh, please don't go.
Francine, I know this night has affected you. Believe me. I'll phone when I get home. I promise.
Oh, will you?
And tell you I'm safe. Yes. And tomorrow we'll have a picnic lunch at Electric Park with ham sandwiches and potato salad. I'll make it all myself. How's that?
All right.
You'll see. I'll live forever.
And you'll phone then?
I promised, didn't I?
Yes. Yeah, of course you did.
Good night, Francine.
Good night. Good night, Helen.
Good night.
Now, I'll walk you home.
It's midnight.
Yes. It's tomorrow, isn't it?
Don't you feel funny?
How do you mean?
Oh, when you think of us being out here on the sidewalks, under the trees, and all those people safe behind locked doors, lying in their beds. We're practically the only people out in the open in 1,000 miles, I bet. Hear it?
Yes. The ravine.
Here's my house. Look, the moon is sinking behind the clouds. I don't suppose it's any use asking you to stay, Lavinia.
I'll be getting home. Sometimes what?
Sometimes I think people want to die.
I'm just not afraid, that's all. And I'm curious, I suppose.
Curiosity killed the cat.
I'm using my head, Helen. Logically, the lonely one can't be around, not with the police all over.
The police are home with their covers up over their ears.
Let's just say I'm enjoying myself precariously but safely. If there was any real chance of anything happening to me, I'd stay here with you. You can be sure of that.
Maybe part of you just doesn't want to live anymore.
Oh, you and Francine, honestly.
I feel so guilty. I'll be drinking some hot cocoa just as you reach the ravine bottom and walk on the bridge.
Drink a cup for me. Good night.
Good night, Lavinia.
Malone. In 5 minutes, I'll be safe at home. In 5 minutes, I'll be phoning silly little Francine and... What's that? Footsteps. Whistling? I'll just walk a little faster. I can run and knock on one of those doors if I have to. It's just a few steps. A man with a long club in his hand. I could make it to that door now.
Who's here? What a time of night for you to be out, Miss Nebbs.
Oh, Officer Kennedy.
Miss Nebbs, I'd better see you home.
Oh, thanks, but I'll make it.
But you live across the ravine.
Yes, but I'll hurry. I'll be fine.
I'll wait right here. If you need any help, give a yell. Voices carry good here. I'll come running.
Thank you. I'm sure I'll be fine.
Good night, then.
Good night. Alone again. Down the hill and then across the bridge for 70 yards. Through the ravine and then up the hill to Park Street. 113 steps and only one street lantern to see by. In 3 minutes, I'll be putting my key in my front door. Nothing can happen in just 3 minutes. 180 seconds. Here goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Am I running? No, it just feels that way. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 steps. 1/5 of the way. So black here. World has gone behind me now. World of safe people in bed, the locked doors, the town, the drugstore, the theater, the lights, everything is gone. Only the ravine now, black and huge. Nothing's happened, has it? No one around, is there? 34, 35, 36. Remember that old ghost story you told your sister when you were kids? The story about the dark man coming in your house and you upstairs in bed with your feet all tucked in the sheets. And now he's at the first step coming up to your room. And now he's at the second step. And now he's at the third step and the fourth step and the fifth. And now the horrid dark man's at the 12th step. And now he's opening the door of your room. And now he's standing at the foot of your bed. I got you! There. What's that? At the bottom of the steps. A man under the light. No. Now he's gone. He was there, waiting. Nothing. The bridge is empty. You fool. That's a story I told myself. What should I do? Should I call the officer? Oh, maybe he heard me scream. Nothing. I'll go the rest of the way. Stupid story. 41, 42, 43, almost halfway. Careful now, don't fall, not now. What's that? Footstep. Another one. Someone's following me. Someone's on the steps behind me. I don't dare turn around. Every time I take a step, they take one. Officer Kennedy? Is that you? The crickets and frogs, they're listening. The ravine is listening to me. To me. They must be hearing my heart. Keep moving. Faster, faster, run! Only a little way. 108, 9, 10, 11. Now run across the bridge. Run! That's right. Keep running on the planks. He's following me. He's on the bridge. Don't turn, don't look. If you see him, he won't be able to move. He'll be so frightened. Just keep running. There. Across the bridge. Please. Please let me get up this hill. Now up the path. Now up between the hills. Oh, it's so dark and everything's so far away. If I scream now, it won't help. I can't scream anyway. Here's the top of the path. Here's the street. Oh, let me be safe. If I get home safe, I'll never go out again. I was a fool. Let me admit it. I was a fool. I didn't know what terror was, but if I get home safe from this, I'll never go without Helen or Francine again. Here's the street. Across the street. The porch. My porch. My house. I need just enough time to get inside and lock the door, and I'll be safe. Oh, clumsy. Unlock the door. Unlock it. There. Unlocked. Oh, now say quick. Slam it. Lock it. Bar it. Lock it. Lock it. Tight. Tight. Home. Safe at home. Safe. Safe, safe. I'll never go out at night again. I'll stay home. I won't ever go through that ravine again, ever. Safe inside, the door locked. Wait. Look out the window. Oh, there's no one there at all. Nobody was following me. Nobody running after me. It only makes sense. If a man had been following me, it would have caught me. I'm not a fast runner. There's no one on the porch or the yard. How silly of me. I wasn't running from anything. That ravine's as safe as any place. Just the same. It's nice to be home. Home's the really good, warm place. The only place to be.
Good evening, Lavinia.
Later that night, an ambulance arrived and brought out a body on a stretcher. The body of a man. Lucky for Lavinia that the sewing scissors were handy that night. Very lucky. Ravine was adapted from the story by Ray Bradbury. Featured in the cast were Barta Heiner, Beverly Rowland, Helen Beeman, Oscar Rowland, Dwayne Hyatt, and Bob Nelson. Original music by Roger Hoffman and Greg Hansen. Production assistant was Patrick Mead. Associate producer and director was Jeff Rader. Bradbury 13 was created, produced, and directed by Mike McDonough. Executive producer was Dean Van Eitert. This program was produced with the funds provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through National Public Radio Satellite Program Development Fund. The program was produced by Brigham Young University Media Services, which is solely responsible for its content. This is Paul Frees speaking.
That was The Ravine from Bradbury 13, here on the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society podcast. Once again, I'm Eric.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Joshua.
And this was a listener suggestion coming to us from a listener named Jeff. How long ago did he write into us? It was a while ago, wasn't it?
It was over a year ago, Jeff,
Yeah.
and
We're sorry.
You know, this is a good problem to have, the number of requests that are piling up, and I'm not upset that we have all these requests.
And listeners should know the reason we're doing this one from over a year ago is because we've decided to tackle them now in chronological order.
Right,
So,
right.
We're starting at the very earliest requests we missed and moving forward. So hang in there.
My first note on this, and I'm hoping you guys can clear this up for me. I've heard
What's a
this.
ravine?
I was really hard to follow, not knowing what that word meant. I've heard this somewhere before.
Probably suspense.
Well,
they did this exact same story, but they called it The Whole Town Sleeping, which is the original title.
Right. My guess is that I listened to this, probably suspense, for this podcast, and went, nah, not that one. And so it became a weird thing with me, like, is this a thing I remember, or is this deja vu? And I hate deja vu so much. Like, is the suspense version very similar in the production value and how they...
I would say so. I like this one a little better, honestly. I think the performances are really strong in this one.
So I probably heard the suspense version of this.
I'm guessing you did.
Because there's probably no way I saw Ray Bradbury 13 and said, yes, I'm going to give this a listen. If it wasn't for a listener
I was
request.
going to say that, but I didn't.
Right. Well, and you know why. Contemporary. You have to drag me in kicking and screaming, other than CBS Radio Mystery Theater. You have to drag me, and Tim does it all the time. Here's one from 1983. Take that.
I love we still call that contemporary.
Well, I will say this is probably my favorite contemporary old radio show
that we've done.
And instead of saying contemporary, shall we say post-Golden Age?
Yeah,
sure.
I'm not that well versed in stuff after the Golden Age, but I thought this was fabulous.
As far as podcast contemporary or post-Golden Age that we've done, The Horn is
like that one a lot.
Way up there with me. I think that the production value on this is fantastic. I think the acting is fantastic. I think it is a great story. I do have some qualms about it. I can tell you love it.
Mm-hmm.
So should we just jump into my qualms? Should we just fight? Just go at it?
Tim, you're not on this episode.
I know.
Okay, we're just.
I just wanted to thank Jeff because show my hand. This might be one of my top favorite 5 episodes I've heard. I really liked this.
Okay, you're in now. You're in.
All right, here's the caveats. Oh, you're going to get so mad at me.
Yay.
2 different stories going on, and that's what bugs me.
You wanted this, let me take a guess. You wanted this to be about hard-boiled detectives tracking down the lonely one.
No.
And there'd be a big gunfight at the end, right?
Oh, that's a fabulous idea, but it really changes everything, and now that you're saying that, yeah. But no, that's not what my point was. Here it is. There is a point in this that this seems to be about these women that are getting together to go out on a night on the town, right? And go see the movie, right? And then it's their relationships and how they're reacting to this, which, by the way, I find really odd, their reactions to Elizabeth being dead. And we're going to the movie anyway. There's something very sinister about that, too, which I'm sure I'll get an earful about. But then it becomes about her in her own head, which is the part I love. It's a psychological thriller. The crux of this is that conversation you're having in your head.
So it's that final walk home you're talking about, when it transitions from conversation to just all of her thoughts.
You could take a ton of this setup away and give me a lot more of the crux of this, which is not about the other women or the relationships with each other or even the movie or anything. It's about what goes on in a person's head as terror starts to heighten. And that I found really well written, really well performed, extremely interesting. But you could set that up and go, oh, we're going to go through the ravine where Elizabeth died just a few days ago. And I literally could take 30 minutes of a conversation, especially written that well, because it's written really well, too.
I will jump in and say, I grant you that. I feel like the other story, the one that you are not liking as much, the really detailed view of small town life, grounds you in that character and makes that monologue much more meaningful to you, makes you much more invested in her safety, which I liked that a lot. I liked all the little details, and I liked the sound of the door squeak.
Absolutely. I'm going to get my notes up here because I'm going off of memory. Because I wrote some really astounding notes, and I want to read them word for word.
Bar bacon, look out!
Doesn't make any sense.
Is it about the idea that her flippancy toward the death of Elizabeth, I believe was the woman's name who was killed in the ravine, and everybody was like, wow, someone's dead. No, we're going to the movie. It's okay. Come on. Is that
I think
set
that's
up?
where most of the suspense comes for that final walk.
Watching
the whole
her
evening we've been through already, that there is this argument going on throughout that first 2/3, and it's an argument against going out and having fun, and someone arguing that we should go out. We shouldn't let this stop us, this murder. And you have different levels of it. You have Francine, who is irrationally hysterical.
Right.
And then they pick up Helen, who is kind of what I would consider maybe your moderate listener or reader identification person. She's
the straight
fearful in a rational way.
Right.
Like, she goes, okay, we can go along. Francine's kind of sniveling. And then they get to the druggist. And I think it's Helen when she finds out that the druggist has given this stranger Lavinia's name and address and offers free peppermint chews in exchange for possibly murdering her. She's the one who says, I think we should get a cab and go home now. And I think that's really interesting that we take these steps, both literal steps down through the small town and through their thoughts about how do we weigh this? What is a rational fear? What's an irrational fear?
Right.
And even her panicked run toward the house is this huge continuing debate on, should I be afraid? And I identify with her walk because I think we've all been there. Not really had a killer stalking us, but that filled with fear. I made a bad choice. It's dark. Why am I walking now?
That structure of I've got 3 minutes till I know I'm somewhere safe.
And counting the footsteps.
I felt like it wasn't just a question of does she take the threat seriously? There's the sub-level of, like, are you out to let yourself get hurt? Are you self-destructive?
If we don't mind, I want to focus on that for a second. It is bothersome to me how flippant, I don't know what other word to use, how nonchalant she was. It happened, 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Hey, Elizabeth's dead. Bijou, peppermint chews, here we go. And there's something about that bothered me. But then again, as I was just saying, is that written that way on purpose to help set us up for her turn to her inner thoughts of terror? It can't just, it's Ray Bradbury, right? He's good. It's been proven. So it's got to be on purpose.
Probably purposeful.
He has written something that she is that nonchalant and flippant about it on purpose. What's the point, though? Why?
There's a lot threaded through here that suggests that she's an independent, willful person. This is clearly the late 20s because they're going to see Charlie Chaplin. She's considered an old maid at 33 because she hasn't been married. There's a line from Francine, I think, about how you push people away. I think she's talking specifically about men, but I think that all informs Lavinia's personality and that she's coming from this point of view of independence. And so I think it's built into her
small
character.
town Bradbury kind of way that she's isolated.
Yeah, 33 and hasn't got married, and that's scandalous. She doesn't seem to be interested in it either. So all that suggests to me that she's a person who does her own thing, and I think that's all part of what Bradbury's setting up for that final
Right.
walk. I also think it all plays into that final twist at the end as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, too. Her calm, it's either unnerving or stupid.
Here's where I think what Bradbury's doing, though. He is using characters to, I think, to a certain extent, represent different spectrums of human response.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's meant to be naturalistic per se, because, again, he very clearly has these three women perfectly aligned on the spectrum of how you would respond to a situation like that, from the most extreme on either end to someone in the middle.
Yeah, none of it's real.
I think it's intended.
Nobody would go out and walk through the ravine in a real situation the night that a woman got murdered in there with the murderer still in the ravine.
Oh, I think someone would.
You would.
I don't know that I would, but I can't say that nobody would. But that's the truth of storytelling, though. Sure. Is always that thing where it has to be what most people would believe, not necessarily what happens. They've had those writing teachers that say, truth is no defense for bad fiction. It has to be what someone would believe. And in this situation, you did not believe that. So it really doesn't matter whether someone in real life would or wouldn't. The reader or listener has to believe it.
Hangs on that people are just telling her straight out, telling Lavinia, don't do it.
Right.
And she understands. I mean, she gets what the threat is, but there's a little mystery and ambiguity into why she goes anyways.
It's a shortcut on top of that. The ravine's a shortcut. Go the long way. There's a killer in there. Go the long way tonight. So
But there's something fundamental in that. Why do you go out into the dark?
Yeah, there's something wrong with Lavinia. I think we're being led to believe that, to the point of I started to think, is Lavinia the killer? She's so calm.
I did not go anywhere with that. I felt like that she makes some pretty rational points. This is a killer who strikes once a month. Yes, she's being super defensive and coming up with excuses like he'll be gone for another month. Let's go see a movie before anyone else dies again. But
I think there is a universal fascination with dark, scary, dangerous things. It's roller coasters.
Yeah, which I don't go on. Which is probably why I'm having a hard time. I would never, you know what I mean? Like, that is not in my nature.
No sympathy for someone who would just do something dumb like that.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
I also think she may not have gone out if it was just her going out. Part of it is that everyone's telling her not to. Mm-hmm. And like you were saying, that she's kind of an outsider of that community, and I feel like she easily can be interpreted as one of those characters who, if everyone's going to tell her not to do it, everyone's going to tell her, you should get married. You should not walk alone through the ravine. You should skip the movie tonight. She's going to say, no, I'm going to do it.
I want to emphasize that I really love the idea of the inner monologue part of this. I've had it happen. Not being stalked by a killer for sure, but my mind's racing and I'm alone, and my imagination's taking over, and then later go, wow, that was crazy. I actually got myself wound up into thinking things were happening that weren't happening, and I like that psychological aspect of what we can actually do to ourselves in our conversations in our own head.
Well, even just to be in that moment of where you realize that the things that you normally hang on to for stability are gone.
Yeah.
Of like, my phone is dead and I'm lost. Mm-hmm. Just whatever, these couple little things that keep me grounded, and I'm suddenly floating and in danger and no one knows where I am, and all the things, like you say, come flooding to your head.
I love the concept of there's probably nothing more terrifying than our own brain.
Yeah.
Like nothing is scarier than what we tell ourselves, and not all sorts of situations, right? From day-to-day activities. No, you're okay. That our brain is sometimes our worst enemy, and I love that part of this story. And
to me, that retroactively goes backwards to the whole rest of the story from her inner monologue, because I just identify with that person who's being told by everyone they shouldn't do something, and they just say, no, I'm going to continue through with my plans. And the fact that once she gets alone and we move into her head, she gets so stressed out, and it is such a relatable experience being in her head in that moment. That makes me feel there's not anything wrong with her. She's a very normal person, but very independent.
Let's talk about the ending. I was really happy with... happy is weird. I was fine when...
Standing up and cheering.
Right.
Get her, lonely one. She's crazy.
When, he's in the house and he says hello, and it could have ended right there. Ambiguous ending. I would have been fine with it this time. I'm not sure who the guy is or if she dies. I actually would have been fine with it. What I didn't like is the add-on. Oh, yeah, she got him with the scissors. I think it would have been scarier not knowing what happened after that. Thoughts?
I love the ending.
I promptly, like the irresponsible person I am, looked up the story and like skip. Well, how does this end? I'm looking at Josh. Have you read the story? I'm assuming you have.
No, this is one that I have not read.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
I did. No.
Yeah. I just wanted to fail Eric once.
So just to spoil it, I'm just gonna have everyone can collectively have the experience of like I didn't read it. I just know like the last paragraph. So it's she gets in the house, locks the door, and the last line is and a man behind her cleared his throat. I'm sorry, I messed it up. I'm not quoting it right, but all that is there's no words. It's just she hears a man clear his throat behind her.
I love that. That is what I'm saying. That I love. That's a scary, wonderful ending. I think there's too much tagged on, and then she got him with the scissors.
I hear you. I think that's totally legitimate. What I liked about it probably goes back to, again, what I was saying about her character and the way I reacted to her responses to the murders and everything else. I found this to be a complete circle in that we see a character who is able to act on her feet. That she, in the end, killed this guy. I was just rooting for her. I was like, yes, kill him, Lavinia. Maybe it's not from a writer point of view, of just an audience identification. Sure. She went to her movie. She dragged her sniveling friends along. She laughed at Charlie Chaplin. She got her free peppermint shoes, and she killed the son of a bitch. I'm like, yes!
Does it bother either one of you? This is an Eric thing now, right? That we don't find out who the killer is?
Not at all, Eric.
No, I am a little with you. Like, if it had just been "Good evening, Lavinia," if it had been that
I'm the
line,
drugstore guy.
if it didn't have
more peppermint juice,
the addition of the and she stabbed him with scissors, which was even structured in a sort of tacked on way, it would have been. I agree. Like that would have been a nice clean ending. I probably would have assumed that the guy killed her. Although it is up to my imagination if she just whipped around with scissors.
Right. There's something more terrifying of it ending with, I love that throat clear thing, but it does feel tagged on. Like, is there possibility that let's give this thing a happy ending?
I'm sure that was the intention. I think someone read this story and went, no, I want this stubborn, strong-willed woman to actually win, not end up being proven wrong and killed, that she should have been hiding in her house like everybody else and shouldn't have taken charge of her life.
I think you could do this whole concept, this whole story, without any setup of there's been a murder. Just a woman walking, or anybody walking through a ravine and watching their brain spiral out of control. Like you said, there's 3 minutes, 120 steps, and then they get to their house and like, oh my God, what did my brain do to me? And then...
Oh no, there's a middle-aged man sitting down in my house.
When did Eric get here?
I hear you, but I just want to speak really quickly to all the stuff I enjoyed before that. I love the ladies walk back from the movie house as the reality begins to sink in, and they talk less, and more Foley comes in, and they are singing "Shine on Harvest Moon," and we just hear the frogs and the crickets, and they're lonely walking. And then as she says goodbye to each one and gets closer, it's sort of this death march, And I think that's why we need the beginning of this story, because the tension just mounts and mounts and mounts until we get to that walk. And they still save a long time. I timed it. It's like 7.5 minutes in her head, which is a long time for a radio show. So that's about a third of it is all in her head.
I couldn't even say what it is about the first part that makes it so Bradburian, of this nostalgic view of a small town life, as opposed to just you're seeing a scene of it. That it's set in the past, and it's really, there's some sense of we are looking at this from the future, looking at a past moment that has that heartbreak of nostalgia of this is a moment that's gone.
Yeah, and we see the thing kind of trying to kill it in that there's like a murderer creeping in. You almost literalize the death of this type of life.
I absolutely agree with you, by the way, Joshua, on all of those points. I wrote the delay from them singing to getting to the door of Francine's house, into that silence, that delay. It faded out, and there was 6 seconds of silence before we were walking again back to the door. That was beautifully done. I do agree with all that. The thing that bugged me is there's two separate scary stories going on. And
I think they're
one is a real scary story, and one is about what our own brain does to us. Pick a story and go with it. When you layer things up, all of a sudden it's Lord of the Rings, and I can't follow anything. There's 12 plots and 8 guys with long beards, and I don't know what's happening anymore.
If only Gandalf had shown up in the ravine.
Oh, man.
You shall not pass.
Yeah, that guy. Who's that?
He's the guy in Lord of the Rings with the beard. The scene in the movie theater, too. I was both enjoying like the canned piano music for just evoking it, and then screaming and the lights come on, and then suddenly the action breaks and you get to, oh, that was a silly misunderstanding.
Yeah, I love that edit. This is the way you do a cold open or a hook, because I've been on the record of hating those hooks.
Yes, you do.
But if you can get Paul Frees to come in and he just narrates, it's not a scene, he narrates Elizabeth's body in the ravine, and the image is there for you before it starts, and it doesn't really ruin it. It's more like a prologue than a hook. It also, I think, helps me with that end too, that we have the two tiny narrated things at the beginning, a prologue and epilogue from Paul Frees. And Paul Frees is awesome. That voice.
Paul Frees is...
This is, I think, the last real dramatic radio he did. He died 2 years later. He died in 1986.
Paul Frees, other than those of us who follow, old-time radio and some other... I mean, he's such a forgotten, amazing talent. And it's really unfortunate because, his resume is 80 pages long. Anybody notice the beginning of this, by the way, is that THX... The sound thing.
But the sound is amazing.
It's really well produced.
The ravine is just alive. You can smell it. You can feel the dampness. It is a really amazing.
I didn't realize that one of the motivating forces behind this whole series was a sound engineer, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. From a sound perspective, it is immaculate. It's really well done.
Yeah, and he went on to start a company. I think it's Huge Sound, but he's done the sound design for, I think, Star Trek First Contact and a bunch of IMAX films.
And THX. How much you want to bet there's a connection there? Because, what was this, 1984?
Well, it's from that era, so that is, I think, that sound.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, thanks again, Jeff, for bringing this to us. I'll start it right off. Other than the dumb things I said, I really loved it a lot. I think it is, story-wise, a classic. The story that Bradbury wrote is absolutely classic. I think that it is an exercise in inner monologue exploration. And I love that as a terror device. And I thought the production of this story was really, really exceptional.
The technical aspects, the performances, are amazing talent, really well done. But for me, this is just a big flag that I need to read more Bradbury, because it's so essentially, as I understand Bradbury and writing, essentially him, and I loved it to bits, that story.
Yeah, I definitely consider it a classic. And like I said at the top, it's probably my favorite post-golden age of radio audio drama that I've heard. I think it is just perfect in that it captures the modern sound design of the time. It has a timeless source material in Bradbury, but then it still has that nice anchor to the golden age of radio with Paul Frees' voice and just all those things combining.
And peppermint chews.
Oh, peppermint chews.
Whatever those are.
Nickels worth of them.
If I had to make one nitpick, and I only bring it up because it's something I had an aha moment, that it seems to happen consistently with later audio drama productions, is there is very little effort to distinguish characters' voices in the casting.
That's a good point.
You see this a lot in, to me, when I listen to CBS Radio Mystery Theater, too. Like, it took me a while to go through and discern Francine and Helen.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
This actually, that reminded me that this evoked one of our very first episodes we did in this podcast, the Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, yep.
Yes.
It did evoke that for me, too. Which you had 3 very distinct voices in the Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Those women. That old school style of, give one a Southern accent.
Yeah. And we kind of think that's hokey now, but it really helps.
Gets
in
the job
audio.
done.
It really does.
Right.
One of us should get an accent.
Yes.
I'm gonna talk like this from now on.
I'm gonna have a lisp, okay? The Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society.
You're going to?
Oh. Now I'm gonna just be heard all the time. That'll help distinguish my voice.
All right, well, thanks for listening. Tim, tell them some stuff.
Please go visit ghoulishdelights.com. If you're not there right now, you can find past episodes of this podcast on that website. You can also find information about live shows that we do. You can find information about how to contact us. If you'd like to make a request of an episode, you can send us a message. You can contact us on Facebook or Instagram. And then I awkwardly trail off.
I'm going to just let that sit for a
Good,
few minutes
yes.
just to get extra awkward. No, you know what? Another opportunity for you guys is to support the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society. And if you'd like to do that, you can go to patreon.com/themorals. And we offer all sorts of membership rewards, including a members-only podcast called The Secrets of the Mysterious Old Radio. And we already have at least one episode or two up, and they're pretty secret. Go on and check those out.
All right, I got the next one as we continue to delve into our listener requests this summer and get caught up. And we are taking a request from Holly that is almost a year old as well, from CBS Radio Mystery Theater. Speaking of, an episode called The Thing in the Cave. Until then...
Look out!
Home's a really good, warm place. The only place to be.